But essentially what I've asked Alex to do is to share with us all his experience as Managing Director of Scotland's Railway. There is some great stuff happening in Scotland. Some really amazing stuff. Even if you just look at the website and the coverage that diversity and inclusion and belonging gets on the ScotRail website, which is quite different. There's information there about different aspects of diversity. There's the kind of the stuff that the organisation's doing around the menopause, for example, around encouraging disabled colleagues to take part fully in the organisation, amongst all of the other different areas that we're discussing. So Alex, I'm going to hand over to you for the next kind of 10 minutes or so to talk to us about your own experience as a leader within the rail industry, an industry which has got quite a long way to go in terms of diversity and what we look like, and certainly a long way in terms of belonging. Tell us about your experience and what's working well.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Nina. So I'll sort of waffle on for a few minutes, and hopefully that will take us into some interesting areas. I mean, as the leader of ScotRail and Network Rail in Scotland, I believe that the railway is for everybody, whether that is a customer or a potential customer or indeed a colleague. And if you look at the diversity of our workforce, it doesn't match the diversity of our customers, and I believe that's a big problem. So I think that if we can create a workplace where everyone can be their wonderful individual self, rather than just a resource to be deployed, we can deliver a better service to our customers. So, for example, there are lots of people in the rail industry who are overrepresented. And that was the other thing that I loved about DDS's book, is it's saying, white, straight men are not bad people. It's just in some environments they are overrepresented. And I believe that if we have a workforce which is fully reflective of society, we will be a better business, we'll deliver better customer satisfaction, and will be a better place to work. So here in Scotland, we've got an ambitious target to decarbonise the railway by 2035. And I'm a believer in having big, hairy, audacious goals. And I've said, well, why don't we say that by 2035, we want the workforce of the railway in Scotland to be fully reflective of Scottish population. So we've got 20% female. Why don't we make it, 50% female by 2035? And recently I was at an event with a supplier, and they were all moaning about the skills shortage in their bit of the industry. And I looked out at this sea of, white male faces, and the same people who were moaning about the skills shortage only seemed to be hiring within 50% of the population, i.e. male. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Those two positions are not compatible with each other. I've got a bit of a sort of personal diversity inclusion story which morphs into a corporate one, and I'd like to share a little bit of that with you. So I'm a gay man. I'm married to Johnny, and when I graduated from Leeds University, I spent the next 15 years working and living in London, which of course is one of the most diverse cities in the world. And it was in London in my 20s and 30s where I came to terms with my sexuality, and I had boyfriends, and I told my family and my friends. And it was only in 2013 when I returned to the north of England to be the managing director of Northern Rail, when I realised there was actually a geographical element to diversity inclusion in Britain. because when I met my PA for the first time, she asked me what my wife did. And I said, well, I don't have a wife. I've got a partner, actually, at the time. And so I had to explain. And one of the things that people, particularly if they've got sort of invisible diverse traits, is they have to explain themselves to people. And that's wrong. DDS talked about the importance of senior leadership and how senior leadership can have a big impact on organisations. And I've been in this job for 5 years, and 4 years ago, my new Network Rail boss, Andrew Hynes, came along to meet me for the first time. And I just got married, and we had breakfast together in Edinburgh. And straight off, he said, "Oh, is that a wedding ring I see on your hand?" And I said, "Yes." And I said, "I just got married to my husband, Jonathan," and we talked about what happened and all this sort of stuff. And immediately, he had created a safe space. He did it deliberately. He was telling me that it's okay to be Alex Hynes and all that you are. And I never had to spend any time sussing him out, holding anything back. I was able to bring my full self to work from the first day of his tenure as chief executive. And that's what inclusive leadership is all about. It's about valuing and caring for each and individual person rather than treating people as resources to be deployed. And we've done loads of great work for LGBT colleagues here in Scotland. And this has been really interesting because when I moved to Scotland 5 years ago, if I was having dinner with my husband in a restaurant, people started saying to me, "Oh, do you want to pay for it all on one card?" And I was thinking, "Oh, this is a bit strange." And it was only afterwards I realised that homosexuality in Scotland wasn't decriminalised until 1981, which I just find absolutely incredible. And one of the things that has proven to be really, really effective at helping diversity, inclusion and belonging is creating spaces where people can have a cuppa and a chat, but only with people who've got lived-in experience of that particular characteristic. So here in Scotland, we'll have employee cuppa and chats for people who are LGBT. And in Scotland, I've been really shocked. People have literally been coming out of the closet. They've spent their entire railway careers being closeted, going through life on a don't ask, don't tell basis, which actually is really sad. And, people have said, "God, crikey, I've been on the railway for 37 years, and here I am talking about LGBT History Month with my line manager and my line manager's line manager, and God, this is incredible." So I think the further you get from London, the harder you have to work on this agenda, because of course London has lots of issues. I'm not pretending it's Disney, but it is relatively diverse, so people are much more up to speed with this agenda. The further you get away from London, I think it's harder for people because there is less diversity. One of the things that I've been really fortunate to experience is a reverse mentor. And one of the things we do when we do reverse mentoring is make sure we get paired up with someone with lived experience which you haven't had yourself. So I'm a gay white man, and one of my reverse mentors was a white menopausal female. And she reverse mentored me for over 12 months. And to say it was an eye-opener was an understatement. She had an incredible impact on me, but she's also had an incredible impact on the quality of life for women in ScotRail and Network Rail Scotland. So we now have menopause cafes in ScotRail and Network Rail Scotland. So people who are menopausal, perimenopausal, postmenopausal, worried about menopause, can talk about it. And one of the things that I find most shocking, actually, was some of the experiences that menopausal women had been through at work, which I just thought were awful. And for me, I should know this, but I didn't. Not all women go through childbirth, but all women go through the menopause. It's often not talked about, and often people have this perception of the menopause of like a Les Dawson sketch, the women's problems type thing. And actually, I used to say to my reverse mentor, well, hang on, why is there a stigma about this stuff when every woman experiences it? Why is there a stigma? This is ridiculous. And so I hope that one of the things that her reverse mentoring of me and the fact that we've set up these menopause cafes is we can help people, it's no wonder we were struggling to attract women into our workforce when, we don't provide the support and the help we need for menopausal women, which, for me is just a reminder that we sadly do live in a man's world. And it's nice to see this talked about in other sectors. My current reverse mentor is a member of the BAME community who's actually in the UK on a work visa. And obviously, they're not easy to come by. They're arranged by their employer, and I've just found it really interesting talking to him about the anxiety he feels because he's over here with his family and his children, and when he sees the mobile number of the person in HR who deals with the work visa flashing up in his mobile phone. For him, it's a real source of fear. And of course, as a white guy, this is not an experience I've ever had to worry about. And I just think that if we spend more time walking in other people's shoes, we can create places to work where people can bring their full self to work, do their best, but also deliver great services to customers as well. I've waffled on a bit there. There's a bit of LGBT, there's a bit of menopause, and now I'm exploring BAME. But I believe that the railway is for everybody, and by God, we have got a long, long way to go until it is.
Yeah, Alex, that you have met your brief perfectly. I asked you to share as much as you were prepared to in terms of your own personal story, but also to give our audience some practical advice of stuff that's happening in your organisation, and you have done that beautifully. I am going to confess to feeling quite emotional when you hear about some of this stuff that people go through, and I don't have that same lived experience as you've had. I have different, obviously, I've got my stuff going on, but just being able to share and I'm kind of coming back to that intentionally brave space concept that DDS alluded to before. It's this feeling that we can talk about this stuff, whatever it is, even women's problems. We can talk about them on a webinar with people from the UK transport industry.